Oh, hello, everyone. Welcome into the PHNX Rising Podcast. Appreciate everyone joining us here. A little midday matinee Thursday action. It's a little bit different scenes as we are usually here, everything like that. But got a little nice show for you guys today because it's not just Owen and I. You don't have to just listen to us today. We got some guests in the house. We have ASU soccer. We have Lieske Carleer and Lucy Johnson going to be joining us, talking us World Cup throughout this show. So it's going to be very Women's World Cup centric. But before we get to that, I know I want to turn to Owen. You have a burning desire to give us a couple Rising updates, shall we?
Indeed. We had the press conference today with Rising coach Juan Guerra. Got a little bit of the update on what's going on at the back with those injuries. Kev Lambert still currently out, not back in full training as of yet. He picked up a knock against Sacramento, missed the game against Monterey Bay. Daniel Crutzen, he went off with a hamstring injury in that last match against Monterey Bay. It was a precaution at the time. They wanted to get some imaging done when they got back. They've now looked at that. He's going to miss this weekend. The good news, Rising has got a new centre-back coming in. Well, new in some ways, not in others, of course. Stenberg, he signed back in December for Phoenix Rising, had some issues with his work visa, wasn't able to come and link up with the team, ended up being loaned back to his old team up in Sweden. He's been playing somewhat regularly for them, so he's got a lot of minutes under his belt, and he's coming back in. He's expected to be ready to go on Saturday, as early as Saturday, according to Juan Guerra.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the update. And I was going to say, for those of you who are watching, right, I know we talked on Tuesday, kind of did the recap of Rising's match against Monterey Bay, the preview of this weekend's match. That's all the Rising talk we're going to do today. We want to get that out of the way because it's a nice addition with the knockout stages set. I mean, right, like we said, we're doubling up on the World Cup. But yeah, it's going to be a fun show today. I was saying, we definitely want to make sure we introduce our guests properly. So we have Lucy, like we mentioned, played with the England U17s, played for Leicester in the championship, and is a wingback for ASU soccer. And then we have Lieske, the Netherlands U17s captain, also captain for ASU, and played for their U19s team, center back for ASU soccer. Ladies, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was going to say, how has the summer been treating y'all? I can imagine some trainings and everything now. It's nice and cool temperatures, definitely not too hot or anything, right?
Yeah, we've been going at it in preseason. We've been working hard together, so it's been a challenge with the heat, but we manage with what we got.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I was going to say, I'm sure made some time to, check out the Women's World Cup, just a thing going on, no big deal, right?
Yeah, it's been really fun to follow along.
Yeah.
Definitely.
No,
In the summer heat, at least I suppose you can sleep during the middle of the day and stay up overnight then, right?
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
I wish.
Yeah.
I wish.
Oh my word. Well, no, it's good that the World Cup, right? It's been very fun to watch. For some teams, maybe more than others, but we'll get into that shortly. But no, let's take a look actually at the bracket, where things stand for the knockout stages, kind of looking at some of the matchups there, right? Owen, any of the matchups stand out to you that you're very much looking forward to?
Well, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the structure than anything else.
Of course,
I think is my main takeaway here, and it's a slightly weirder World Cup kind of round of 16 structure here that we don't normally see with the perfect 32.
Sure.
Normally, the team from your group, you're not going to face them until the final. The other team to qualify out of your same group. That's not what's going on here. Those teams will actually meet in the semi-finals if they both get this. So in a hypothetical scenario where the US get past Sweden, they end up making it past the winner of Japan-Norway, they could then potentially face the Netherlands again in the semi-finals. And it looks like that's travel-related in some ways, but still, it's not ideal. You normally like to keep those teams apart and really open it up and mean that somewhat anyone can play anyone.
No, certainly, very much so. It's kind of an interesting kind of thing how everything has played out. I was going to say, ladies, I know that we're going to be talking about some specific teams, but any of the matchups that really excite you going into the knockout stages?
Well, being from the Netherlands, for me, of course, I have to watch the Netherlands game and see how that's going. But it'll be an exciting game and excited to see what they can do.
Absolutely. Lucy?
England, Nigeria.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely.
I love it. I mean, listen, we're gonna get right into it. I do want to shout out, right? We did, at the beginning of the World Cup, we did the pool where we had all of our different PHNX Rising followers and diehards and everything like that. Paired them up with a team. This is currently where it's stacking out, right? Everyone in gray. fortunately eliminated because their team is no longer in it. Those in red, they're still riding strong. Owen, you had Italy.
You wanted to swap with me when you drew yours.
No.
I
don't recall that. I don't recall. No. I
definitely
wrote
did wanna
Nigeria.
swap with me.
I was Team Nigeria from day
Oh,
one.
no,
I don't
you
know
weren't.
what you're talking about. Mikey and I, as he put in the chat, we're going with Nigeria. We're riding them. It's going to be a good time there. Couple stalwarts in there. Punk Rocks 13 with USA, but maybe that's another topic that we'll get into later. That's a contentious one. We have a couple others. Jake. Tyman Anderson with Australia.
Discount Jake.
Yes, Discount Jake. Sean DePaz with Jamaica going strong. Emma Clark with Japan. There's a lot of people in here, even from the PHNX office, that still have a chance at winning this whole thing.
There are
We absolutely love that. Well, right. Kind of good to see where everyone stands, right, on the pitch as well as in the PHNX Rising pool that we started. But we want to dive a little bit further into these countries, right, especially, ladies, the ones that you guys are rooting for. We're going to start with England.
Yeah.
Right. So England, definitely a fun tournament for them. So they have the odds right now is plus 300 in the terms of where they're at to win the whole dang
that would
thing.
make them the favorite, by the way.
Yes.
At this
No.
stage.
Good looks there. Top scorer, we have Lauren James with 3. The round of 16 opponent, as mentioned, is Nigeria. Group stage games, couple close ones to start off the tournament, and then really blowing it out of the water against China PR. Lucy, how are we feeling about England and this upcoming matchup?
I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, we started the group pretty slowly, I'd say. Like with the Haiti game was pretty meh, to say the least.
Sure.
But I think it really picked up as the games went on, and like in that China game, like going forward. I mean, the only goal we conceded was the penalty. So going forward, it's been really good, and Lauren James has been on fire. Yeah, she's brilliant.
Oh, absolutely. Right. It's been definitely a right. It's been a hot minute since the Euros and everything like that. I know there's been some key injuries. Where have you seen this team? Like, where have you seen the development from the Euros till this World Cup for them?
I would say it's definitely a younger squad with the injuries that have happened. It's definitely a younger squad. So like players like Lauren James have stepped up. You know, there's girls on the bench now that are a bit younger, like Katie Robinson. But yeah, it's definitely changed the dynamic of the youth. But maybe that will give us a bit more flair going forward. I don't know. Hopefully so.
You mentioned Lauren James there quite a bit. She's only 21.
Yeah.
Already performing at the level that she is in the World Cup. What do you think that says about the future for this England team?
I think it's massive going forward. Like, I've truly believed like she's going to be one of the best players in Europe, if not the world. And like she's just getting started. But there's also young girls breaking in. Male Associate obviously just missed out on standby as well. So yeah, I think it's really positive going forward.
Absolutely. I'm going to say, I know with the Nigeria matchup looming, how good do you feel about England's chances is this one coming home? It's coming home.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I really hope so. Yeah. That would be nice. But I think Nigeria is going to be a real tough game.
Yep.
They're physical, like super physical, strong girls. So I think it'll be a close one.
Yeah.
Definitely. There's no easy games now, you know.
Absolutely. I see Mikey repping Nigeria. All power to England, but it's my team in the pool. I got to support, but no, it is going to be a interesting matchup for sure. And I think I
will say though, and this is I think one of the more interesting points, the way that the bracket has kind of worked out. They're not going to have to face a heavy hitter necessarily until later in the tournament, and that then raises the questions of, sometimes teams come in, and you saw how England looked against Haiti and in some of those earlier games, whereby things aren't always quite there. But when you play sometimes some of the I wouldn't say weak teams, because we've seen a lot of these squads still now who've pulled off upsets and pulled off some really big results going forward. But it masks things sometimes. There are little things that don't go right. And then you come up, say, in a semi-final against a France or someone like that, and they're going to exploit those. And you haven't had the time necessarily to identify and work on the little things that may or may not be going right.
No, and that's even an interesting point, right? Because we were even talking, right, that before, like an hour or so before we started here today, that this World Cup and really any of these knockout tournaments, but you always look at some of the really heavy hitters going in and you're thinking, okay, well, you're pegging this team to go far, this team to go far, this team to go far. And we've seen a lot of, not only we would say upsets, but a lot of the powers that you see within this tournament are either, kind of limping into these knockout stages, or they're just flat out not there. A lot of surprises coming through. And I think that's something that, we can say, hey, certain teams are going to be favorites, but it really does matter how it plays out on the pitch.
Definitely. Like, knockout stages, anything can happen. You can't really predict anything at that point.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, I can imagine it's probably got to be like a different mentality in the way of like you're looking to, win as many matches as you can, but it's kind of like a new stage, like literally and figuratively of like you're literally just like, how can we find a way to make it happen?
Definitely. One game at a time.
Yeah. She just likes the cliches. I like the cliches.
Yeah.
I love a good cliche. No, but on the real, it's honestly true how you have to approach it. But glad we got England out of the way, and I was hoping we could just maybe skip past this one. But I guess we got to talk about the Dutch. They did a pretty good first couple games, right? Jules Rode with the top score with 3 goals. Their round of 16 opponent is South Africa. The 1-0 win over Portugal. We're just not going to even talk about that second match. Some might say the Netherlands, played pretty well.
Max, you're saying now we're not going to talk about it. I remember you because we had a post-game show that night.
We did.
Rising played up in Sacramento.
Yeah.
And you were there celebrating. It was you, it was Emma, one of our producers here. They were practically celebrating. And I'm just like, are you celebrating the fact that you have drawn one, lost one against the Dutch in the last 12 months in World Cups?
I was celebrating that we scored a goal because I didn't think we were going to. I think that was. I'm amazed. No, I was celebrating the fact that the way that match was going, I was thinking there's a very good chance we are out of the World Cup unless we do something very, very good against Portugal. And I'm like, this is a game we're watching the entire time. I'm like, I don't think we're going to get a result in this one. So, no, I mean, it's not only it's a quality opponent, and a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, look how poorly the U.S. played, but I don't think it's a U.S. dominant narrative in that game. I think the Dutch came out to play in that one, and I mean, you've seen why they're like a superpower, especially in Europe and really on the world stage as well.
Definitely. It was a very entertaining game to watch, very highly anticipated. It's the repeat final of 4 years ago. So there was a lot riding on that game. And I think the Dutch really came out to show the world what they got. And I think they definitely did a really good job at that. Also in the third game, like beating Vietnam with that amount of goals is sending a message to the upcoming opponents. So I'm really excited to see where they can go.
Yeah, no, I was absolutely. I'm curious, right? Where have you seen, in when your time watching the Dutch and everything like that? Where have you seen like the evolution their game? Because it's been clear that they have been very much on the rise. You've seen it within past tournaments. The results keep following, but I feel this year in watching them, it's like this is like a whole nother edge.
Yeah, it's a very young team compared to when we won the Euros, when we went to the final of the World Cup. We've had to cycle through a lot of new players, but you can see the youngins stepping up. Like Esme Brugt, she scored 2 bangers against Vietnam, really showing off what she got, and it's been really cool to see that these girls are getting a chance in our squad, as well as just some returning talent like Lieke Martens, Van der Donk, Jill Roord, carrying the team with their experience that they've had. Lieke Martens now scoring in 3 World Cups these past 3, so that's really awesome.
I think it's one of those things as well. You mentioned with the big win in that final game. I think we've seen a lot of the teams that realistically should be contending in this World Cup now. They all did that. Right? They may have had the slow starts, but by the final game, no matter who you're talking about Australia, you're talking about England, and then obviously you've got the Dutch, you've got Japan. All of these teams came out and did that and made those really big statement wins in their final game of the competition. I think that, from the Dutch perspective, they obviously didn't know that the US were not going to win that game against Portugal. That's got to be a tough one going in because they're behind on goal difference. You know that if the US put up 2 or 3, you've got to put that kind of 7-0 scoreline up there. And you're against a Vietnam team that don't really have much to play for, and you don't know then which way that's going to go. Sure. Are they going to be out there to prove something by just clawing out any result that they can find, or do the heads just drop, especially, I suppose, when they go 3 or 4 down? Yeah,
definitely. The Dutch came out, they had a mission. They knew goal difference was going to be the decider of the group winner, because they didn't know the U.S. results. It was at the same time, so they knew got to give it your all because we want that top of the group and get the best placement in the knockout stages.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's it definitely has to shift things up, and I don't know, it's one of those things where sometimes these things, it doesn't just come down to wins. It's like by how much, and that's just a whole mentality in itself. But yeah, group shaked out pretty well for the Dutch there. And
I mean, they didn't need that 7 in the end, did they? They
No,
only
they-
needed 1,
no.
didn't they?
No.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
I guess a certain team's last match against Portugal in the group stage almost went differently in a bad way. I guess that's a nice segue into the U.S. U.S. It's it's been something for them. I'll say that. It's 2 players tied for the top score. Their round of 16 opponent is Sweden, a all too familiar opponent, right? We have the 3-0 victory over Vietnam to open things. And even then, definitely some worrying signs of, hey, it kind of seems like there's maybe a bit stalling the breakthrough. I know a lot of U.S. fans in the chat are Vlatko out, as some say, but it's definitely a device performance. And then you have that second match against the Dutch where, we kind of just went at length in saying tough. It was a tough 1-1 draw that I'm really surprised it was even a draw at that point. And then you have that last match against Portugal where literally a post, and it's a very different conversation. And one of the 4 of us maybe isn't wearing this U.S. women's national team kit, but I think it's interesting from y'all's perspective. And I know we get it a lot here in the U.S., right? Of like, listen, it's the old narrative. I know you have a rant about this. I get it. It's coming. I'm teeing you up for it. I'm teeing you up, but I know that the narrative in the U.S. has often been like, oh, U.S. women's national team, it's the global superpower. Now everyone's saying the gap is closing, It seems like even before the tournament started, I think a lot of people saw that the gap isn't closing. It's already been closed, and that there's a lot of other teams who have been building for this for years and years and years, and you're now seeing on a full display. I mean, I guess what does that narrative that's often the case over here, how does that resonate, I guess, whether in England, in the Netherlands, to y'all?
I would say, like, with the Women's Super League and the MWSL, there's always been a big comparison there.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's sort of like they're on a level playing field.
Mm-hmm.
So the gap is definitely gone.
Yeah.
By far as I'm concerned. It's over. It's over for US. But I mean, there's still such a good side. They have great athleticism, which is probably a little bit of a difference back from where we're from in Europe.
Sure.
Maybe it's more technical and athleticism is more of a thing here. But I mean, the US is still a really good side at the end of the day.
Sure.
I mean, they're looking a little bit younger, but they've still got some superstars.
Yeah. I think also like a big difference is like the US lost matches before this tournament. They haven't been winning on their continuing winning streak that they've been on for a long, long time. But there's some good competition now, which makes it all the more interesting. Also with the big upsets happening all over the tournament. It's been very, very cool to see that women's soccer is growing this much.
Absolutely. No, and I think the rising tide lifts all ships. I mean, I think the fact that where you've seen the investment in the game, both, domestically in the NWSL, within other programs around the world are continuing to see that, listen, we'll call it what it is. People are putting, there's definitely a level to go, very much so, but it seems that a lot of places are starting to put the money and investment financially into the women's game. And you have seen that a lot where these programs are very much continuing to be built from the ground up.
Definitely. You see a lot more youth teams nowadays also for women, whereas we didn't have that chance when I was growing up. The earliest team I was able to join a professional club was the U14s, which is very late when you compare it to the men's game. So it's awesome to see that more investment is going into like youth development in the women's game, and that's only going to rise the game from here on out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think probably when we first started playing, it was sort of a thing of, could you make a career out of it? Could you not? Like, only maybe if you're the top elite, you could. Whereas now, like, girls are starting to play and thinking this is actually realistic, which is a really nice thing that we've seen develop.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. No, 100%, dude. I'm looking at you.
I was waiting for you to cue me up.
Yeah, no, I don't think I need to cue you up, man. I know you're just gonna launch into it.
Lieske actually kind of led into it quite well with the comments that you made about how, you've got the athleticism. That's been the approach in the US for so long. And in many ways, it's an approach that it transcends all levels. And it's not just on the women's side, it's on the men's side as well. You see it so often whereby the dominant domestic kind of route of player development is bigger, faster, stronger, and often quite direct, quite transitional, quite counter-attacking play. And for so many players here, if they're American-born, play in the American system their whole lives, you look at this US women's team at the moment, and that's barring one player, all of them are currently domestically based. Most of them have not spent any considerable time out of the country. You don't have that barometer really to measure them up against players from other parts of the world. And as you're looking into those things, I think a lot of people really like to kind of point at Vlatko and say he's the problem. And I think that's just, I mean, it's not that he's great by any stretch of the imagination, but the idea of moving with another direction, unless you're going to actually kind of direct some attention at the root causes of some of the decline here, all you're doing at that point is manage decline. You're not actually addressing the fact that, look, when you look at that Portugal game, what ideas did the US have? Okay, they were just lumping it forward out to the left, hoping that something was going to happen. And look, could they have maybe done that better? Yeah, of course they could have. But you look at the way that Portugal just utterly slicing them apart in the middle of the park. And I don't feel like you see that. I don't feel like you see that. You see a much more direct kind of approach from the US. And that's something that is pretty much ubiquitous throughout a really disjointed player development system here, whereby you have the youth game is a mess. I mean, I could do a whole half-hour rant on the youth game and the current state of it. Then you have the college game, which is kind of separate, but also part of this pathway. And that can add to issues on and off as well. And then you have the professional game, which on the women's side, the NWSL is really reliant on that pathway coming through the college game in a way that maybe at least MLS doesn't have that issue. They don't focus so much on the colleges anymore. And I'm just intrigued. I'm intrigued. And of course, the women's landscape is going to change so much here in the US, where you've got the introduction of the USL Super League that's coming. And it also opens up then the idea for a potential pathway that maybe goes through college, maybe doesn't go through college, because you've got the USL Academy, USLW League, USL Super League kind of pathway that you could theoretically just go up through with the club since the age of maybe about 14 and end up being a professional. But I don't know. I'm intrigued by this. I think it takes a lot more focus than necessarily US soccer is currently paying. There's a lot of things that they have to address here from the bottom up to make sure that they're keeping up the pace with a lot of other countries that are, now they're finally putting the money where the mouth is a little bit more at least, and starting to take over some of those resources that they've been applying to the men's game for so long, and all the lessons they've learned from that. I think the US has really got to pay attention, otherwise they are going to fall behind.
Yeah, definitely. Like development-wise, like it's growing so much in Europe, and like in the US, you can't keep relying on the college game. Like it needs to start earlier than that, development-wise. If you want to create like the elite players over time. And also one thing that I've really noticed, like I started playing when I was like 5 years old, and there's so many other sports that are big in the US where a lot of players that I've met here are like, oh, I did this sport, I did this sport, I did this sport. Like they like do 3 sports all through high school and then like specialize in soccer after that. So that's also another big difference I've noticed in the soccer world here.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. I think also the beauty with back in Europe is we have the men's teams that are pumping a lot more money into the women's teams now, whereas here are the MLS teams giving any money at all? It's separate. Exactly. Whereas we have Man United back, like that started maybe 3 or 4 years ago now, and they literally put a women's team straight into the championship, won the championship, promoted to WSL. Now they're like top of there. So it just shows how quickly a team can grow back in Europe.
It also intrigues me, that one, actually looking towards the future, because obviously probably not a question for you two, given that you're not American, and it's something that more needs to be asked to Americans. There is, when you're looking at, okay, you're good enough to go professional now, what's the attraction anymore? Is it NWSL with clubs that have maybe existed, some of them for a handful of years? Or is it your Man United, your Barcelona now that are pumping more money into the women's game? Are you going to want to go abroad more? Is that something that we'll see? We'll have to wait really with that and see how that goes. Yeah, no, I think y'all appreciate everyone's perspective. Right, as a US fan, it definitely seems right. It's definitely the program at large is kind of like at a, I mean, like crossroads is the right word, but it's like this isn't something that happened overnight. I think it is very much the case of kind of what everyone's saying, right? Whether it is, there are a lot of Americans who there's multiple choices for them, whether it's
other programs internationally where, you know, you see the men's side of things are distributing the money because that's where you see the investment going. You see the future. It's not just, you know, a separate discussion of men's and women's. It's the fact that there's viable commercial investment to be had within these women's teams. And I think you're really just starting to see that more and more happening abroad, where a lot of the times, right, you kind of pair that with, to your point, a lot of how, you know, the US system is very much, you know, reliant on, you know, athleticism and everything like that. Whereas other countries, it's in their DNA of like, this is how we, you know, played within the, whether it's different passing or different combinations, stuff like that. Like that's inbred within the, like country's culture of like soccer. Whereas like US, their identity is very much athletic based, which good and bad to it, but it has its limitations for sure. Yeah. Well, something to me that doesn't have their limitations. It's our friends at OG's Brands.
Is that really the transition?
Yeah, of course it's the transition.
Really? Really?
Oh, of course. No, our friends at OG's Brands, they are always changing the game with, for those of you who do partake, the best scratch-made gummies in Arizona. The best stuff. They got the indicas, the sativas, the creams, the fruits, all of that good jazz. Very tasty. As always, they got the pink lemonade for those who like the summer edition. Everything like that. It's a fun time. If you guys want to get your hands on OG's Brands, you can check them out on Instagram at OG's. That's OGEEZ Brands. And then you can also check them out online at ogsbrands.com to find them at a local dispensary near you. You must be 21 years or older to enjoy responsibly. Something else you have to be to enjoy 21 years or older. Friends at Four Peaks. Shout out Four Peaks. Always got the great beers on tap, whether it is the Kilt Lifter, the Wow, the Hazy IPA, Raj IPA, all the different things. They have the Tee Shot for those of you who are golf enthusiasts. They got everything at their 8th Street Pub. You guys know where to find them, right? You can check them out on Instagram at Four Peaks Brew or at Four Peaks Pub to keep up with all the local events they have going on. We're always well stocked here at PHNX. We appreciate our friends at Four Peaks for making that happen. And again, must be 21 years or older to enjoy responsibly.
Of course, we had that watch party at Four Peaks at the
we did.
The start of the Women's World Cup.
We did.
Maybe seeing your betting patterns for that game, we should have known that, yeah, it was going to be a bad losing summer for you.
All right. Moving on to the rest of the tournament, because I don't really know how to come back from that one. Right. We folk. All right. Yeah. Let the laughter subside. All right. No, but we talked about, right, these three teams, England, the Dutch, US, who in all their different respective ways very much are some of the favorites still left in here. We have a couple others that, whether some might think as surprises for the knockouts, whether some are rising superpowers in the women's game. There's a lot of interesting stories for these knockouts. One that I think we may not have anticipated when we had the show.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of teams, big teams, that have just not made it through.
Yeah.
I mean, you can really just reel them off. You've got Canada, you've got Germany, you've got Brazil, all of those teams not making it out. And then you've got teams that, in some ways, maybe you look at them and think, okay, I didn't anticipate this. Some of them, like Jamaica, I mean, maybe we should have expected more.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's been a really interesting one, just for completely surprising as it feels every turn.
Absolutely. Ladies, I'm curious to get your thoughts. Like, who has been the surprise of the tournament for you so far?
I think Jamaica.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Jamaica's been performing really well.
Yeah.
Let's actually have a look at the Jamaica, how they've done so far. And you see they're the top scorer with 1 goal. That's because they've scored 1 goal all tournament, which normally you wouldn't say is a good thing, but they've somehow kept 3 clean sheets in all of that. When you keep a clean sheet against France and Brazil,
it's very impressive.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different type of thing. These knockout tournaments, right? I mean, I'm not a mathematician, but I believe if the team doesn't score against you, I don't think you're going to lose that match.
Not a lot of things, Max.
Yeah, so it's a pretty good recipe for success there. No, but it's I think, right, especially knowing the story with Jamaica and everything like that, right, with the fact that they were backed by the GoFundMe and everything like that, like that's, I don't even know how you write a type of script or anything like that, but that's incredible. Honestly, it really is. Yeah. It's gonna be a tough opponent against Colombia, but I mean, yeah, you're facing, again, France and Brazil, by no means slouches in their own right, and the fact that you're advancing out of that group, it's impressive.
Yeah.
Very.
And yet
Really
Jamaica are probably also the team that go back on a lot of what we've been saying, which is about the fact there's the investment in the women's game. And you see Jamaica and how their federation is run.
Yeah, wow.
I mean, I've heard enough, as you'd expect with the number of Jamaicans we've had go through Rising, about how they're pretty terrible with their men's side, but with the women's side, wow, they really take that to a whole nother level in terms of just not putting the money in. And yet, despite that, they're still getting these results on the field.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I think you've even seen in other countries, right? Whether it's like Canada, where on both sides, men's and women's, they've had their disputes within the federation. That it's oftentimes, and it's kind of sad that when it comes to these knockout tournaments, that the timing of how all this can transpire. I mean, it's honestly brutal for a program, but again, I think that just further shows the fact that they're making it on through. It's again impressive. Very impressive. I'm going to say anyone else, Owen, that you really stands out to you within this tournament?
Really stands out so far. I think that Australia, having managed to get to the point that they're at now, having had that result against Canada and doing it all without Sam Kerr, that's the impressive thing. Now, they have that surprise against Nigeria, losing that game right there in the middle. And to come back from that, having lost a game that you look at and think, okay, does that really leave you in the lurch? And then come out and destroy Canada, quite frankly, in the way that they did. I remember actually that Canada-Australia game, I was getting to, it was a classic, lovely little 5:30 in the morning trip to an airport. I get there, it's on the TV, and I look at it and go, what? Like, what am I looking at there for? And there was a goal disallowed in there as well, wasn't there? I'm sure Australia had another goal disallowed as well.
Right. I mean, either way, it's a wild scoreline.
Yeah, I mean, Australia. I mean, what do you think about Australia in this?
Well, they've had to face the adversity of missing Sam Kerr throughout. Like, that's their leader, that's their top goal scorer. Like, getting back from that, other people have to step up, and they did that, especially against Canada. Like, other people stepped up and got the goals, and a very impressive win against Canada.
I think it's a bit of host nation superpower, definitely. But yeah, I think probably when everyone heard that Sam Kerr was out, people sort of asked questions of them, and they've really showed up. So good for them.
100%.
Yeah, I think to me, it's that combination of they've clearly got the confidence now. Now the star is coming back by the looks, and they're playing the tournament at home. All of those things to me add up to make this team a real dark horse.
Yeah, the stars are aligning. They really are.
And having that home crowd advantage definitely is going to help them in the knockout stages.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's pretty good place to be for them, especially right home field advantage. And I mean, even just seeing the scenes after that first match, like, oh man, like how can I mean, both for Australia and New Zealand, how can you not get goosebumps for that? I mean, honestly, on the New Zealand side, and I know, right, that they are not, different story for them and how they fared in this tournament, but it's got to be pretty cool knowing that one of your teammates was represented on that squad and everything like that. Like, have you heard from Gabby and like her like reaction and everything for being a part of this tournament?
Oh yeah, she's worked so hard all summer, and New Zealand put out their squad pretty late, so it was very tense time for all of us. We were all on the edge of our seats, seeing if she would make the squad, and we're all so proud of her for being that impact for New Zealand. And she got some minutes in there, and she was able to represent her home country in front of her family and friends at a World Cup, which is just amazing. We're unbelievably proud of her.
That's so, I mean, again, talk about scenes. That's got to be so cool. Like, you're watching on, you're like, oh my gosh, like this just happened and everything like that. And like, place is going nuts.
Yeah, we did a few watch parties with the girls, and it was good fun. But she did brilliantly, bless her. Like, she's been superb.
Oh my gosh.
She was on the pitch, wasn't she, as well, for the final whistle when they won their first ever World Cup game.
My gosh, that's like a goosebump moment. Like, you're literally like, you're a part of that. That's freaking awesome. Man, that is so cool. And I mean, I know we keep on talking about teams that, we think are really going to make a wave in these knockouts. Going back to it, there is one that I know people, they might have written us off, especially Mikey, might have written us off. But
you're about to go with a direction I know you're about to go in, aren't you?
What do you mean? What do you
I
mean?
know exactly who you're about to say.
No. You're talking about the Nigeria.
Nigeria.
Of course.
Yeah.
No,
I know you're about to go.
Nigeria.
I personally would have no issue with Nigeria going deep in this. I'll put that out there.
Oh, okay.
I don't think that's a surprise to anybody if I'm going to make a comment like that.
Okay, well, listen, one of the four of us on here may disagree with that, but no, Nigeria. Yeah, I mean it's been a good run for them. Drawing Canada, by no means a bad result. Winning against Australia, by no means a bad result. It's definitely a type of style where make it work. Again, 3 scores tied with 1, but like I know we talked about a bit, Lucy, with the preview a bit. It's going to be an interesting opponent for them. For England,
definitely, yeah. I think it's going to be a really tough game, to be honest. I think they have strengths that maybe England don't have as much, so it's going to be interesting to see in that game who comes out on top.
What's intriguing to me, though, is you look back at their first game against Canada, and you've obviously got the missed penalty in there. You think just how different could this have turned out if Canada had scored, gone on to win that game. People seem to be getting quite excited by the D-bags game.
Don't mind us.
But just think about how that was Derek clearly reacting to me putting forward this hypothetical.
Of course,
what would have happened if that penalty was converted? But I mean, it's one of those ones you think then how does that just change the game? Because do Canada still go on to collapse in the way they did at the end of the group? Who really knows?
Nobody.
Yeah. No one knows.
Yeah, it's all about your momentum in the game, and like that penalty, that missed penalty can like switch the whole momentum of the game. And if you don't push through, it might fall on the other side, or it doesn't fall, and it could be pretty demoralizing. Just missing out on that win in your first game, and got to go on, and you have 2 more games after that. And it's hard to flip the switch sometimes.
I mean, I think that's that's always what I find the interesting thing about these knockout style tournaments. Like, it's not just a regular course of the season where it's like, okay, cool, you drop a match, no one wants to drop points or anything like that, but there's other ones to go on. It's through a longer run. You possibly drop a match at one of these knockout tournaments that could, depending on how other results be, that could potentially be like you're out. It's kind of crazy how it all stacks up.
Yeah. And it can be one moment in a game.
Yeah.
Like, soccer is a game of moments, and you can't slack at any time. Could be a brilliant moment at the top, or a not so brilliant moment in defense, and that could change it all.
Soccer's a game of moment. That's like t-shirt worthy or something. I love that. That's great.
Get that in writing.
Yeah, no, it's your idea. I'm not. That's all yours. No, that's all yours. But no, I love that. We did have one other team, right?
We did have one other team we're going to mention.
Yeah. Let's cue up Japan. Japan. Yeah, that's been. I mean, listen, it's if you look at nothing else, right, other than the score lines there, you'll know it's dominant. And also just like, it's a fun team to watch how they play. My word.
It is. That last game, actually, that Spain 4-0 win, that is the heaviest defeat inflicted on Spain for 11 years.
Oh, wow.
This man loves a good stat.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's how significant that game was when you look at it. The problem I think that Japan have is that when you actually look at the teams they're coming up against, they've got Norway initially, then they've potentially got they're going to have the US or Sweden in the next round if they get past that.
Yeah.
They're really having that grouping of like tough teams early doors, and either they're going to come through, and I think if they get through that phase, they could well win it all very easily, and probably would be at that point probably my favorite to go through and win it all. But at the same time, you're facing a lot of teams there that are just going to be unforgiving if anything on that day goes wrong.
Yeah, Japan's a really good squad. That Spain game was really entertaining. Spain had most of the ball. I think they had
70 or something,
80%.
Sounds like a Spain.
80% of possession, and then you lose 4-0. Their counterattacking was insane. The speed and the so clinical up top. It's a force to be reckoned with for sure.
Yeah, they play some beautiful football. Yeah, they play some really beautiful football. So.
For sure.
Love that. I mean, I think again, another thing I really love about these tournaments is especially like you see all the different styles on display and everything like that. Yeah.
All right. Should we move on to predictions?
We should. And Jacob, if you don't mind actually pulling up the bracket while we're going, just to give everyone a look on that. Curious to your predictions, and as well as, right, I get it. Probably some of us might be biased on, teams still in it, right? England Dutch, oh, sorry, no Wales.
Thanks,
and,
Max.
Yep, and US. I would love to see if, naming who we like as a favorite, even if it's your own country, and then maybe an alternative that's if it's not your own country. Lucy, we can start with you.
Yeah, so obviously I'm going to go for England.
Okay,
It's my
there we go.
favorite,
Yep.
number one.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, like with the way that Japan have been playing, I think they're my alternate. Yeah.
You stole my answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta go root for the Netherlands. They have a tough route coming up with possibly Switzerland or Spain. Switzerland have been performing pretty well as well, and with the Euros coming up hosted in Switzerland in a couple of years, that they are investing a lot of money as well in the game. So it's a tough bracket, but I'm gonna go for the Netherlands, and I would say Japan as well. They're very solid right now.
Okay. Owen?
I think I'd go for a Japan-Australia final, and I'd probably take Japan edge.
That'd be a good final, honestly.
Man, that'd be exciting. Be very exciting. Well, I don't know if the U.S. is gonna make it. Honestly, yeah. Gosh, yeah, you know what? Sure, I'll put some hope in the U.S. to turn something around and get it going. I say that super confidently, right? No, but if not the U.S., of course it can be Nigeria, right? I mean, no, sorry,
It's
Lucy.
okay. It's okay. We'll see.
No, but I would say I do like Japan, and that was maybe a pick. I'm trying to be a little different. I like Australia, riding the momentum, going the whole way.
See, when you were originally going for the US kind of route, I was going to say it's like it all just kind of builds up. I've been making this comparison now for a few days. When you put all the discourse from like before the tournament, all those ads that came out, and then you see what they look like on the field, it's like, wow, the American women's team have turned into like the England men's team.
Yeah.
That's how it feels like. It's like all the cockiness possible before, and then they show up. It's like, well, you beat Vietnam, I guess.
Yeah,
like,
how
well
the
done.
mighty fall.
What was the Nike one? Was the slogan again? It was
The nice to beat you one.
Nice to beat.
And it's like, yeah, Vietnam.
And
that's who you beat.
Well,
so far.
wasn't it featuring the Dutch in that commercial as the?
I think it was a generic alternative team. It wasn't that clear.
I don't know, but either way, I'm just like I swore I thought it was, or like I think it was the team, whether it was generic or not, they highlight them as in orange. I know that was the unis, and I'm like, really? Like we're really gonna do this right before we play them in the group stage? That was a fun one. Not yeah, but okay. Glad we got our predictions in. Chat, please chime in as well. Okay, see Mikey, Australia in the final. Come on now, he doesn't like that one. Yeah, it's okay. You don't have to like it.
I still just think though, when you look over on that side of the bracket, there are less of the heavyweights over there.
Yeah.
Necessarily than on the other side.
Yeah, I mean right, and within a round or two, we're going to see a lot of the heavyweights beating each other. See Mike in the chat who'd Wales beat. Yeah,
we took Switzerland to 122 minutes before they took the lead trophy, which doesn't really count, but hey,
that's like
enough.
me saying Tottenham Hotspur are the Champions League finalists. So
oh yeah, you keep claiming that.
Yeah, no, well, it's true. We have it, but anyway, that's not the time for that. We do want to make sure we shout out our friends over at Valley Tap Room. Always a good time. We did have a watch party over there. Definitely a little bit of a downer. Well, that was the one where U.S. drew Netherlands. That's a tough one, but also then
Rising shipped 4 goals in the first half against Sacramento. Yeah, that was a rough day.
Really dull. I mean, the fact that we're celebrating the draw just goes to show that it was a tough pair of matches. But we do want to shout out our friends at Valley Tap Room because they made it a much more enjoyable experience. If you guys want to check out Valley Tap Room for yourself, head over, check them out on Instagram, first off, at Valley Tap Room, and then check them out in person off the 202 in Gilbert. They always got the trivia. They've had like karaoke. They've had different competitions, all kinds of fun stuff. Again, shout out Donald. I hear if you go there and you tell them, you mentioned Owen's name,
then he'll put the beer on Max's
No. It's on
Max
your
is
tab.
buying beers.
You're buying.
Max is buying beers.
This is tough. This is very tough. Somewhere where you can also buy beers is our friends at Circle K. Circle K has everything, right? They have the snacks. They have the different like jerky. They have popcorn. They have chips. They have a whole like stack of like foods right over there. It's very nice, but it's hot out, right? Especially if you're at soccer practice or training or in a Sunday league, whatever it is. Probably want a Polar Pop. Nice, refreshing Polar Pop. Go over to Circle K. Text PHNX to 31310. Just do it on your phone. PHNX to 31310. To get a buy one, get one free Polar Pop. Again, PHNX, 31310. Buy one, get one free Polar Pop. Get not one, but two. Nice, cold, refreshing. Feel fantastic. Thank you to our friends at Circle K for supporting us. And they're also proud partners of PHNX Rising. So we love that. Absolutely love that. I know we're kind of getting a little bit towards the end as our Sun show is going to start rallying and trying to kick us out, but we're not gonna let them. But I know we did want to ask a couple of our diehards. So we have a couple of diehards, right? Pretty cool. Everyone here at PHNX who is a diehard, they're able to, get into our Discord, ask a lot of fun questions. And as I'm fumbling through my phone, we do have a couple of questions that our diehards ask. So we have Albert in our diehard platform said, I like for both of you. He wanted to know how you ended up at ASU and also what you like most about playing as defenders.
I'll give it a go.
Yeah.
I wasn't originally planning on coming to the US at all, coming to play, but I do value academics a lot. And another Dutch girl was at ASU before, Eva van Deursen. I don't know, you guys might know her. But I used to play with her back in the Netherlands, and she gave Coach my number, Coach Winkworth, and he called and was like, "Come on, visit." And I was like, "Okay, I'll come by." And I loved it. First minute I stepped off the plane, looked at the campus, saw the academic side of it. I was like, "Wow, this is a really great place for me to develop as a player and as a person." And that's how I ended up here. Just took the leap and kind of went for it.
That's awesome.
So you didn't come in the middle of the summer then?
No, my visit was in January, which was
Okay.
that's where they
talking.
They plan it well.
Yeah, they knew.
August is different though.
they don't show you the up bar. It's like, ooh, here we go. That's
You come over from the start of the season like, this isn't how I remember.
It's a little harder.
We turned the oven on.
Yeah, with me, sort of similar to Lieske, I wasn't really looking to come to the US.
Yeah.
But Coach Winkworth, he was at the Women's Under-17s Euros in Bulgaria.
Oh.
And he happened to get my number. Still don't have a clue how. But nevertheless, no complaints.
Yeah.
And I came on a visit and never looked back since, sort of thing. So, yeah, it's a great place to be able to develop as a student and an athlete. So, yeah.
Awesome. Love that. Shout out Albert again for the great question. Appreciate the answers, ladies. We do have one from Mikey also in the chat there. He did ask us on Discord, what's the biggest difference between playing for your country and club, if you will, here for ASU?
Well, with playing for your country, there's always this type of honor and pride. Like, you get to wear that badge, you get to represent your country, and that's a feeling you like. It's indescribable. You get the privilege to be out there on the field, like representing a whole nation. Like that is just an idea that you can't really put into words. And of course, like, you're very passionate about the club you play for, but that's the place you're born, like your home, and it's just always an honor to wear that orange shirt. In my case,
definitely, I'd agree. I mean, on our team at ASU, we have so many different cultures and nationalities, whereas back home, you're all the same culture, nationality. So it's definitely a bit different, but both are brilliant.
Yeah. Love that. And then appreciate that. And we do have one last question from one of our diehards, Lee, in the chat as well. Asked us on Discord. Let's see. Do you want to know, would love to know what clubs you grew up supporting, what clubs you support now, and any of like your favorite players you idolized growing up.
So I support Lincoln City. I don't know if anyone knows who they are, but they're in like the 3rd division in England. And I grew up like in Lincoln, so it's always been a family thing. Favorite players growing up, I always liked Robin van Persie, Dutchie, like, because he was a lefty as well, so he scored goals. I couldn't score goals, so I would just try and idolize him. You know, that's sort of it. Ended up at left back, so
yeah, you still score from there.
I tried.
I don't get why you didn't claim that goal against last year.
Honest.
You should have claimed it.
I know, but I would never beat around the bush. You know, I'm too honest. I couldn't be a liar.
For those who don't know, Lucy scored the winner against U of A in the game last year. I mean, you're saying it was a cross, but like, no. Claim it. It was a shot.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, I supported PSV in the Dutch First League all growing up. Went to a couple games, but I played for FC Twente, They're both on the men's and women's side. They're in the first league, and actually played for them for 4 years. So yeah, that has a special place in my heart as well. Not so much on the men's side, but mostly on the women's side. So yeah, and players I look up to is Big Virgil van Dijk.
Oh yeah.
He's like such a good player, like such a leader on and off the field, and that's something I really idolize. Like, yes, your performance on the pitch, but also the man that he is off the pitch and the leader that he is to everyone around him.
Absolutely. Saley likes that. PSV loves that answer. She does know Lincoln as well. There you go. Love that. Yeah. Let's say, Owen, I know we wanted to make sure to give them some time to talk about the season, what we can look forward to, anything like that. Any questions you have?
I feel like we're running out of time, so I've got to keep this a little bit. What kind of pressure have you two felt, really? Obviously, like seeing the players that left, and now you're assuming the armband, of course.
Big shoes to fill for Alexia.
How difficult or how much of a step up is that for you?
So last year of course, Alexia was our captain, but we've always had a leadership group. There's not one person that stands above the rest of the pack. We're all leaders in our own way. So of course I'm like officially captain now. It's filling big shoes with Alexia leaving, but I've always felt like I've led in my own way, and I just have to do that a little bit more on the forefront now. And I have Jono as well as my vice captain. And it's just we're doing it together. We're all in it together, and it's not just us that are leaders on the team. We have plenty of players that show up by leading by example, by how hard they work on the field, or leading in different ways. And we're all in it together in the end.
Yeah, and I think definitely in this preseason we've seen pretty much everyone stepped up, you know?
Yeah.
Even the new girls, like, most of them are fairly vocal, you know, which has been really nice to come in. Like, we're all working towards the same thing, you know, no one's shying away, which is superb.
Definitely.
Okay, and then obviously you're 2 weeks away now from the season opener.
Yeah.
We will need to answer that one question that's in there in the chat. Where can they watch the team play in person? So
Sun Devil Soccer Stadium in Tempe. That's where we play all of our home games. Our first weekend, we play Wright State and Mississippi State, both at home. So welcome to come watch and support. It will be amazing. We're very excited to get started. We've been working all summer, so we're very excited to get going and finally let loose on someone else instead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, come and watch, please.
I love that. Anything to leave the people with? Any final words, quotes, words of inspiration? Anything you'd like?
Oof.
Go on, Lieske.
Just enjoy the sport. Like I said, women's soccer is on the rise, and with the World Cup going on, please watch all the games, support the teams that you want, and then once the World Cup's over, come on over to watch ASU games, and hopefully we'll get into a very successful season.
Absolutely. All right. I think it's a fantastic place to wrap it up. Appreciate everyone joining us on a little different edition of the PHNX Rising Podcast, but it's always a fun time. I appreciate our guests joining us. Where can they find you guys on any socials you'd like to direct them to?
Sun Devil Soccer on Instagram. And then Twitter is Sun Devil Soccer.
Yeah, I think it's all just Sun Devil Soccer.
Absolutely. Personal socials as well, if you'd like.
Oh, if you want.
Yeah, of course. We hype you up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
My Twitter is I'm sure it's L_J0601. And then my Instagram is LucyJ._03, something like that. Yeah.
There we go.
My Instagram's nice and simple. Lieske Carleer, my full name. So right there.
There we go. All right. Well, appreciate that. If they can follow you there, you can follow this guy over here at OJEvans18. Follow me on Twitter at MaxDavidSimpson. Follow the show, of course, at PHNX__Rising, because double the underscore.
That's double the fun.
That was actually really nice. There you go.
There we go. It's like going back to the very early days when we started with the double the fun before we started making it sarcastic because they were losing. We would
never do something like that. No, but again, appreciate everyone joining us. Catch the pod. We'll be back after Saturday's match. hopefully in good spirits. But we'll check it out
And
again
before the match as well, of course.
Well,
half
yes,
hour
of
before the
course,
match
of course,
on
on
Arizona's Family
of course, on the
Sports.
pregame show, absolutely. But yes, again, appreciate everyone joining us in the day for this. Always a fun one. Follow the rest of the Women's World Cup. Of course, we'll be doing the updates. Everyone who's in the pool, you still have stake in it, so it's gonna be a good time.
Max will buy you beers.
We're getting out of here. It's the beautiful game, but you know it's even more beautiful when you guys join us for a nice show like this. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you on Saturday.